Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Curious Owlbear, and I'm here to explore everything Dungeons & Dragons. If you're going to use one of the following random encounters, let me know about it. I would love to hear your stories. The wind flows through the branches of the trees, rising high on either side of the small dirt path your adventurers are traveling on. Maybe they're on the way to a great adventure, or maybe they're just journeying between towns, but you need some random encounters for the forest in between. Let's explore! Your adventurers begin to hear padded footsteps rushing down the path towards them. A few seconds later, a massive dog comes bounding down the trail, his tongue happily hanging out of his mouth. A good perception check will notice the length of rope loosely hanging from the dog's collar. A few minutes after the dog runs past your party, a tired-looking hunter will jog down the trail asking about his missing mastiff. This is a fun, non-threatening encounter that may have your players kicking themselves for poor animal handling checks, or deciding to let the dog go on its merry way. As the adventurers come to a river that runs through the forest, they're surprised to see a school of big, juicy fish struggling to swim upstream. The fish are sitting ducks for the adventurers, who only need to get a good grip on the fish's slippery scales. The party might not even notice the several bears who are fishing nearby. This encounter is particularly good for low-level adventuring parties who may not have high enough proficiencies to take the fun out of fishing. In the middle of the night, the silence of the forest is interrupted by a piercing, woeful howl of a wolf nearby. As your party creeps closer to the sound, they see a large black wolf caught and bleeding in a thorny thicket. Some good animal handling checks and a few painstaking minutes of thorn removal will release the wolf from its fate. It's very thankful to the party. After shaking the last of the thorns from its glistening coat, it will approach and allow the adventurers to pet it. When I ran this random encounter, our party's druid ended up making good friends with the creature, and it became a permanent companion. During their travels, the party nears a clearing in the trees, and they start to feel an odd sensation. The feeling soon passes, but an interesting creature will hail them from the clearing. A small man with hooves instead of feet approaches and invites the party to drink with him and his 3 satyr friends. As your party drinks and feasts with the satyrs, they tell the adventurers stories about the forest and its inhabitants. When the party finally decides to leave, they'll feel the odd sensation again, and they'll find that time has passed significantly faster outside of the clearing. If they only spent an hour with the satyrs, they'll find that 5 hours has passed outside. This was a fun encounter for my party, as they enjoyed running into some friendly creatures in the middle of the night. Since they decided to split the party, those who were left outside of the clearing began to worry about their companions as more time passed, thinking something horrible had happened. A simple encounter with a pheasant, deer, or even a bear could become an interesting encounter for a single adventurer. When your party decides to split up, bring out the lower level creatures again, as they could become a new challenge. One time, our high level barbarian went out on his own and found a wyvern den. He decided to fight both wyverns by himself, which turned out to be a little more difficult than he thought. Your party has been traveling among thick underbrush and wide tree trunks over the last several days. Suddenly, the party hears a twig snap from one side of the path. As they get closer, they'll hear someone gasp for help in common. On the other side of the underbrush is an adventurer laying in a pool of his own blood. His party recently came across a dangerous creature, and he was barely able to escape. This is a good example of a random encounter that could lead to a side quest for your party. In my game, the injured adventurer was a wizard, who provided the group's wizard with a new spell in compensation for the party's assistance. As your party travels down the road, they will be passing some other travelers. I think it's always a good idea to have some interesting merchants or other travelers they could run into. The merchants might carry exotic or rare goods, or they might hire the party for protection. Either way, these seemingly simple encounters can add a layer of realism to your story, as your party will no longer feel like they're the only travelers on the road. One evening, as your party begins to make camp, they hear a loud commotion from down the path. Investigating, the party sees 2 groups of well-armed men locked in combat. They're yelling and screaming as they slash at one another. About 30 seconds later, A third armed group rush out of the trees and into the fray, attacking everyone else. I loved this encounter because my party had no idea what was going on. Just as they were deciding to attack the first two groups of men, the third group ran in and foiled my party's plan. You could even drop an NPC who was familiar to your party in with one of these groups to add some confusion mid-combat. Amid the sprawling forest, your party stumbles into a small grouping of huts with a few dozen people dressed in simple green robes. The people are very friendly, inviting the party to dinner and to stay in the village. However, they're hiding the fact that they worship an ancient green dragon. They'll provide their patron with any information the party offers. The people may even try to steal a valuable item from the adventurers to take to their patron as a tribute. This was a great encounter that I used to introduce a major villain, as my party didn't discover the villagers' true nature until it was too late. The thick tree trunks of the forest are forcing your party to zig and zag on the road. As they shift around a particularly large tree, sunlight reaches through the canopy, briefly warming the adventurers' cheeks. Suddenly, a shadow passes overhead, and a good perception check will see a large creature rocketing down from the sky toward the group. The party readies their weapons as a wyvern attempts to sting one of the party members. I think this is a good way to make your party feel like they are the prey rather than the predator for once. I even had the wyvern attempt to grapple one of the adventurers and fly away once it was injured, which immediately had the rest of the party panicking. Whether you're looking for a simple, quick point of intrigue or a terrifying creature for your party to do battle with, these 10 random encounters will get you started. Feel free to adjust them and drop them into your world. If you do, let me know how they go. Until next time, stay curious, adventurers.